guys, welcome to Bass Release. I'm your host Steve Eldridge, and today we have Don Meissner. Or Meissner. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Meissner. It's Don Meissner.
You were so excited.
You know why I'm so excited?
Why is
Because
that?
you are a legend.
Oh my goodness sakes!
Is he not a legend or not?
He's a legend.
He is
In
a
my own
legend.
mind, is that where this is going?
I don't know. So anyways, well, you know why I'm calling you a legend? For 20 years, you were the host of the Rod and Reel Stream Side.
Yeah, that's true.
And now,
I don't know how I feel about that now.
Wow.
20 years.
20 years.
You wouldn't believe the people that come up to me that look older than the hills, and they said, "I grew up watching you on TV," and I'm supposed to smile and say, "Really, really,
Yeah.
Grandpa?"
Yeah. I mean, my father was telling me times, you know, when he was watching you on TV too. You know, he keeps talking about the time that you got a muskie that one time. You said the biggest muskie you ever caught on a fly rod,
Oh yeah.
and it went through your legs and you
Yes.
lost it.
No, it's funny. That was a show where everything went wrong, and yet people remember that show more than any show maybe I've ever done.
Yeah,
And we never caught it.
Yeah,
It got away.
My dad said you were so upset on the show and said, "Oh my God," he
dear.
said he felt bad for you. So that was 20 years of that.
Yep,
And now you're into your fourth season with Fishing Behind the Lines.
that's right.
And what is Fishing Behind the Lines all about?
Well, it's one of these things that after doing Streamside for so many years, and it's hard to go away from something.
Yep.
And I remember it just happened by accident. I was asked by Bernie Haney, who a lot of people probably recognize.
And Bernie's on
active.
Facebook.
Yes. And Bernie said, "You know, we're going to have a Take a Soldier fishing day on Oneida Lake." He said, "Do you think there's any way that you could film it?" And so then I had to go back to the TV station. Make a long story short, I went there that day not knowing what to expect. It was volunteers from all over the New York Bass Federation, including people from New Jersey came to Take a Soldier out that day. It wasn't even bass season. We were fishing for carp and, gosh, whatever they could catch.
Yeah.
But I remember after that day was over, I remember getting back in my car and calling my sons in Virginia and saying, "Guys, for all the shows I've ever done in my life, this was the most impacting, powerful day for me. I've got to tell this story somehow." Mm-hmm. So what Fishing Behind the Lines is I take a soldier, a Marine, somebody that has served our country out for a day's fishing.
Yep.
What it is it's a way we can pay them back in a way, because we've got this incredible resource here that we can share with them, but also it's a way for us to learn about who they are, to tell the story of the people that are in uniform, to make people realize they're somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife. I mean, they're people. They're part of our country.
I don't want to cut into you, but I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more here, but I did a couple shows with you last year, with Will being the guide, and those 4 that we took that one day, I learned a lot from some of them.
You really do.
I mean, it was, and I think 3 out of the 4 never fished in their life.
No.
And they had a blast. Those 2 girls, oh my God, I never.
Well, we were lucky. First of all, we were fishing with Will.
Yep.
So we knew we were going to catch fish. Second of all, we picked something that would be so easy for them to catch fish, even if they didn't. If you remember, one of the girls was she'd reel that lure and she'd get it up to the top guide and keep trying to reel it in. Didn't have a clue what to do.
Yeah.
But boy, did they have a good time.
Oh, they did. They had a really good time. I enjoyed it. That's something that's I mean, it's something that you're gonna remember though. Your rest of your life.
You will, Stephen. You'll have more chance because we're starting our 4th year now.
Yeah, pretty excited.
And what you've said means everything, because these people that have been in the service appreciate us taking a day to take them out, but we end up a lot of times getting more out of it than they do, in that we get a chance to feel some of the things they felt and to experience the joy that they seem to have on something that a lot of times we take for granted.
Yeah, and you don't always take them bass fishing.
No.
I see you've been taking some of them down to the Salmon River, fly fishing for salmon, out on Lake Ontario.
Went catfishing. Have you ever gone catfishing?
No, I never.
I'll tell you what, I hadn't really either. And we were using big pieces of chicken and cut up pieces of perch or crappie. They like one of those fish better than another. But it was so different, and yet to me it was fun. It was fun as heck. I hope I had 2 Air Force people out on that day. I hope they had as much fun as I did. I want to do it again.
Yeah. One of the shows, I think I can't remember if it was your first season or second season. You had the 2 that were in the medical helicopter.
Oh yeah.
That was a really interesting show. That was something to watch. That one, I really enjoyed that one. I couldn't believe that those guys did that in the military.
Yeah, they did it in the military, and now when they get out, they're still doing
the same
thing.
Yeah,
the same thing.
Yeah. And were they from New York?
Yeah,
both were. New York. Now, you don't always just take soldiers from Fort Drum, or are they all from?
No, when we're taking.
What I'm saying is, I mean, we probably got some soldiers that are watching right now, and if they wanted the chance to maybe get on the show and fish, is there a way that they can go around to contact somebody, maybe?
You bet. You know, that's a great thing you brought up. We have this great fishery in New York.
Yes.
And we've got Fort Drum right near us, which has an awful lot of people stationed there. And so it's a pool of opportunity on both sides, I guess you could say. But no, anybody, any place in the country, I would love to have the opportunity to get to meet them and to go out fishing. You know, I've been doing these sports shows to promote the area. And when people find out about the show, because I'm promoting the fishing here in this area, I'm not really there to promote my TV show.
Yes.
But when they find out about it, their whole posture tends to change. And I've had so many say, you know, we would love to take somebody out. If you'd like to come down on the Hudson River, or if you'd like to come down on the Susquehanna River, or down in Ohio to one of the lakes there, over on Lake Champlain, I've got offer after offer for people to take someone out.
Yep.
So the opportunity for us all, everybody out there listening, watching, to work together, it's unlimited. I mean, we could do anything. What we do have here is this incredible fishery, so that it makes it easier sometimes for us to give them something special in return.
Yeah, and you got the guides. I mean,
I know.
Not just Will, but all these other guides that help you out, and they're doing it on their own time too.
You know, I'm glad you said that, Stephen, because you and Will, and I've had a lot of other people that have become close friends of mine that have helped us out to do it. And without their help, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't. The strength of what we are doing is based on the people that are given a day in their hearts to make a good time for others.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, for sure.
So I want to thank you again.
Oh, no, I want to thank you for asking me to do it. I mean, I was, we're going to get into this other one here in a minute about the other time, the other opportunity I got to go with you, because it's my favorite NFL team. So I was so happy. I told Will, I said, well, if Don don't ask me to go, I'm never talking to him again. But I mean, that was crazy. That was.
Well, tell everybody. I'm not going to jump in here. You tell everybody what you're thinking.
Okay. Well, Don got hold of Will and asked Will and myself if we can help guide on the St. Lawrence River, because he had a couple guests coming from, I guess you could say, Pittsburgh. And lo and behold, I found out that it was 2 Pittsburgh Steelers players. Number one is, I call him Big Al because I can't say his first name.
Alejandro Villanueva.
Alejandro. That's how you say it.
I don't even say it right. I don't say it with a Spanish
And I know everybody calls him Big Al, so I just
Yes.
leave it at Big Al. Now now we'll get into his a bit of a story here in a minute. And he also brought a teammate, an All-Pro, Dave DeCastro, with him.
Yes.
Boy, remember when we were having breakfast
at the restaurant, and they walked in.
What they ate? I couldn't believe how much they ate. They ordered half the menu. It's like, oh my God, where are they going to go to the bathroom on the river? But they were. I mean, people,
what a thought.
Well, I mean, you know, my little boat and these big guys on my boat, you know, and I got pictures on my Facebook, and everybody says, look how tiny you are compared to these 2 guys.
Well, these guys are giants.
Oh yeah.
Alejandro's 6'10". He's one of the biggest players, if not the biggest, in all of football. But what really impressed me was their heart.
Yeah.
They are great guys.
And funny.
They had a blast. They're coming back again for sure. I mean, why wouldn't they? They have the greatest fishing day probably of their life.
Yep.
And so it's going to make some super shows for people to see.
Yeah.
See these guys.
And when they were leaving, Dave goes, "Here's my cell phone." You know.
Yeah.
So I got a cell phone number and I text him every once in a while, and it's pretty nice too. You know. But with Big Al, he was a captain in the Army, right?
Yeah. He was a Special Forces Army Ranger.
See, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think, okay, he come out of college. He jumped on. He got signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that's not what happened.
No, that's not what happened. He went to West Point. He played for Army as a wide receiver, and then he went to serve. And boy, did he ever serve! In fact, when he got the Bronze Star, he had actually put somebody that had been shot on his back and went through enemy fire to take him to safety. I mean, just the guy is an incredible guy.
Yes,
a lot of people have seen his story. Through the ad on TV because he was on all last year, but that's what it's about. If it hadn't been for his serving in the Army, he wouldn't have been a guest on my show. I wouldn't have even known him. Yeah. And his sergeant major was one of my
Terry Sutton.
Terry Sutton.
And hopefully Terry's watching because he said he was going to watch.
Well, Terry's one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life, and
Terry's a very nice guy.
Because of Terry that we got the opportunity to meet Dave and Alejandro and have them on the show.
Yeah.
And then Terry came and was part of the show. And you know what there's a lot that came out of this to me. Number one, every time I do a show like that, I make new friends. And hopefully they're friends for a lifetime.
Yes.
But the other thing is, and this is on a lighter nature, I wasn't a Steeler fan. I didn't like the Steelers at all. Now, since I've got two buddies that are on the Steelers, I've become the biggest Steeler fan there is. Every single game.
It's like the Dallas Cowboys won this year. So this year I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. He's jumping ship.
I did jump ship.
That's it. Open the door, throw him out.
But now I'm on that
you
ship.
jumped into a brand new ship.
Oh my gosh!
Because you never had a team.
Yeah.
Now you have a team. So
when
it's
you
a
have
brand new ship.
you have two friends that you've spent time on the water with, had all the laughs and everything else that went on there, and then can watch them play each week.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it so much more powerful for you
when
you actually have people that mean something to you on the team.
Yeah, and it was fun because when Dave was on my boat, and they were playing against each other. They were making comments and stuff, and then I'd say, ask him a little bit about football, and he had no problem talking about it. And that's what I found really nice about Dave and Al. I mean, he asked them many questions, and they weren't, they didn't try to hold anything back. So,
no, I appreciate it tremendously.
One thing I wanted to explain for some people that are watching that doesn't know about Al is when he got done in the military, he actually went to the Pittsburgh Steelers as a walk-on. Correct? He tried out. I believe. I don't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers got a hold of him to sign him at first.
No, at first he played for the Eagles.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, the Eagles. When I just did the sports show down in Philadelphia.
See, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And the Eagles let him go. And
Thank you, Philadelphia.
Yeah, and a lot of the Philadelphia fans that came to me at the fishing booth that I had down at the big sports show in Philadelphia. I wasn't sure how they'd take it with a big banner of two Pittsburgh Steelers up. They came up and they'd say, "Oh my gosh, we wish we still had him. That was a huge mistake we made letting him go."
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. So it's
that surprised me. I always thought he tried out as a walk-on.
They asked him, they needed him to gain 100 pounds because he was tall, as we know he's as tall can be. Yeah. And they wanted him to be heavier to play tackle. And boy,
so he wasn't really that bulky at the time.
No, he was a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Terry Sutton, his sergeant major, every single game, Terry's going through every single play, almost like the ultimate coach.
Yep.
So Alejandro's got a lot of people right there watching everything he does.
And as a Steelers fan myself, they did pretty good this year.
They did fantastic.
One more game and they would have been in the Super Bowl. But
I know.
It happens. That's it's no different than fishing. You catch the big one, and sometimes you lose.
There's so many things that can happen in a season Just like there's so many things. You guys are fishing tournaments. I'm not a tournament fisherman.
Yeah.
But when you guys are fishing tournaments, you know darn well that on that day, so many things can make the difference. One little thing can make the difference,
definitely,
whether
for sure.
you win or lose.
Yeah.
Because you're all good, you know?
I don't know if I'm that good. I think I am, but
I think I am. I think
I have like the little train I could, right?
You have to think you are.
If you got any questions, just throw them out, you know?
Yeah, we got a question from John, and he's wondering, he said he knows you're from the Tupper Lake area. Is that where you grew up from?
No.
You're not?
No, but
I know Don is from Tupper Lake, he asked.
no,
Tupper Lake area.
and for John that's watching, and of course, you know, through all the years, I've represented so many different areas of the state because I love this state. But I actually grew up in Allegheny County, down on the Pennsylvania border in western New York, and our house was situated right on the Genesee River. And from the time I was a little kid, every single day I was out there on that river. Now all we had was trout. And then once it got summertime, the smallmouths would work their way up. They weren't big ones like we can get up here. But that's what I had to fish for. And it was enough. It was enough to change and sort of form my life. But no, but I love Tupper Lake.
So,
I love it.
Well, he wants to know is he'd be interested in hearing what some of your smaller bass fishing lakes that are in the Adirondacks, which is like your favorite area to fish. The Adirondacks. What kind of lakes, the areas you like to fish in the Adirondacks?
Oh my gosh, the Adirondacks. You know, that is a great question. I get asked questions like that all the time. What's my favorite type of fishing and so forth? The Adirondacks have some incredible bass fishing, and one of the places that was always one of my favorite was the St. Regis chain of lakes over by Paul Smith's College, and that lake 20 years ago was the premier bass lake. I'm telling you guys wouldn't believe the number of 6 and even 7 pound largemouths that were taken out of that lake by guide services in the area. At that time they kept everything, but that lake has absolutely phenomenal bass fishing, both smallmouth and largemouth. That's one of my favorites. But there's so many others. Of course, Lake Champlain, that's not in the Adirondacks. Tupper Lake, I haven't fished for bass as much in that lake as what I'd like to. I mean, I'd love to be able to fish all the different waters, but some of the little ponds people don't go to, they have some fantastic fishing. But again, if I had to go back to that, the St. Regis chain up there, it's just, you have access just above Paul Smith's College, and that's a fantastic bass fishery.
What's the name of the lake down by Star Lake? Cranberry Lake. Cranberry Lake's a really good largemouth.
Cranberry Lake has both smallmouth and largemouth. I
Yeah.
remember years ago when I first started doing Streamside, Bill Safe was doing Rod and Reel, and he went and did a show on Cranberry Lake, and he brought back a number of smallmouths. Back then, they kept an awful lot of fish. These fish were dark chocolate brown, and he took them to Charlie Rawson, who was a taxidermist in Dexter. And Charlie said those fish, their bodies were so rock hard, they sent them into scientists to find out what was going on with the smallmouth bass in Cranberry Lake. They were like, their flesh was like rocks, is the best way I can describe it. Now, what was the ultimate answer to that? I don't know. But that's what I remember about Cranberry. It had fantastic smallmouth fishing.
Yeah.
You ever fish like Sacandaga Lakes and places
Sacandaga Lake is typical of reservoirs. Sacandaga is one of the biggest reservoirs in the state, has the record northern pike that came out of there, has a number of smallmouth in Sacandaga Reservoir. But the primary food of smallmouth in that lake used to be crayfish. I don't know if it still is. The smallmouth don't tend to grow nearly as big on average as they do in some of the other waters. And that quite often is typical. It's typical of reservoir bass. Whereas the northerns grow gigantic in that lake, in Delta Reservoir, and in Cranberry Lake. Cranberry Lake has some of the biggest northern pike in the state.
Yep.
Well, I hope that I've answered John a little bit. There's so many other. The Deer River flow is not that far. That used to be a great bass water that I like to fish. The Saranac chain
Deer
of lakes.
River is amazing.
That's
for
what I was going
muskie.
to say. What about the Saranac?
Saranac chain of lakes.
Upper,
There's some
lower?
terrific smallmouth fishing in the Saranac chain. Again, though, the larger bass on average are going to come from either Lake Champlain or they're going to come from the from the Great Lakes water system because of food.
Yep.
Their diet is just incredible in these waters.
And they're feeding on these gobies that are.
And the gobies, of course, we know they're making them bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Definitely, for sure. Got nothing else, Will?
Okay, let's see.
If not, we can go on.
I'm just reading through them. What's your favorite show you think through all your years of doing stream
Oh
side?
dear!
I know you have a lot of them, but what would be your
I've
favorite?
Hold on a second.
I've-
How many shows did you do with Streamside?
Well, most years. The first year I did 13. That was the first year. This is going back in the 80s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the second year it was picked up to be national. It was first intended just to be a local show. Second year it went national, and from the time it went national, I did 26 shows a year. And that's more than most people
For 20
ever did.
or 18 years,
Yes,
roughly.
we did 26 shows. So when you take that, that's over 300 plus shows. And the scary thing, I hate to admit it, but it's true, is a lot of times some of those shows I forget totally until we go in the archives and I see it, and then
And
the
then it
memories
come back,
then all
yeah.
the memories come back.
Yeah.
You know, it's awful hard to single out because I want everybody to realize that these shows were more than just going fishing. They were the experience of meeting new people, of going to places that I would never had a chance to go to, going to the Everglades and fishing down there in Lake Okeechobee and fishing in Alaska and going up with the Inuit so many times above the tree line in the Arctic and fishing. And I got a chance to fish in just about every state. I loved going to Kansas and places that you wouldn't even think.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, one of my favorite shows that I remember is the very one, Stephen, you brought up, where I hooked this monster for in a river. And actually, I think it was in the Grass River. The biggest muskie, I couldn't believe it. It was a monster. We had no way to get it in. We got on shore, and we're fighting it. And we kept getting it in, and we could put our hands on it, but there was no way that we could pick it up. It was so huge. And I kept saying, Tom, what are we going to... Tom was my guest on that day. And finally, just by some freak of it... Well, the first time, the muskie went through Tom's legs. He's standing there in the water. The muskie swims through his legs. Now, what am I going to do? I got to follow. So my hand is going through his legs to pull the pole to the other side. Finally get it there. I mean, it was a comedy of errors.
Yeah.
So... And the moral of that whole story is, in the end, the muskie won because I had nail clippers on a lanyard around my neck to cut my line. And somehow that line went through those nail clippers.
Oh.
And
it broke your line.
It broke my line, and the muskie swam away.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, it's to answer that question, it's so hard. It's so difficult to think of your favorite show that you ever did, because so many of them, they were all wonderful. They really were. I know I've done through the years with Will. I'll bet you we've done at least 25 shows, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was so
was
many,
close to 20,
so
yeah,
many
somewhere near 25
times,
shows.
so many
Yeah.
times. I remember one time we took Colin Moore, Colin Moore was the executive editor of Outdoor Life.
Yeah.
And that year, Outdoor Life had asked me to judge and rate all the rods and reels made in America, and so we really tried to do it.
That's a job.
Well, that was part of what we did. But I said to Colin, "Would you like to do a TV show with me?" And he said, "Yeah, he would." So we brought him up to Will, and Colin had fished all over the country, being the chief editor. And we went out with Will, and he took us to this, we called it Goose Island, and we stood on the island and cast. And I think it was Colin's first or second cast. He hooks a smallmouth, and he said, "This is the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught in my life." His very first fish of the day.
Oh, wow.
And that sets... So these are some of the experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. I could... If I started going on, I could talk for 20 hours about some of the shows that we did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you guys want to catch some of the old shows, they are... Have you been on... You ever go on YouTube? You notice some of your shows are on YouTube.
You're really making me seem like this ungeeky old fool
No!
that isn't keeping up with modern life. That's what you're doing.
No, but they are. If some of the people want to watch some of the old shows, they are on YouTube.
Well, let me just tell you, every show that I did, it was as honest as could be. I mean, I lost so many fish. I did so many things wrong, but those experiences were so real. And I hate to tell you the days we went out and didn't get a show.
Yeah.
Because something would happen. The fish wouldn't hit. Our cameras wouldn't work. We'd go again.
Yeah.
We never, ever, it. So I guess what I'm saying is not only were the shows honest, but the other thing is it gave me a life that I would never have had.
Yeah.
Ever have dreamed of having.
Yeah.
If that one day I just hadn't got the chance to do a TV show. Didn't know a thing
So
about it.
how'd you get into it?
I didn't know anything about it. I happened to be in a sporting goods store one day, and Bill Safe, who was the head of the TV station, who I'd never met in my life, had been reading some of the things I'd written in this little fishing magazine. And he
So
says,
you were a writer for a while?
I was a writer.
Oh, really?
And he says to me, "You're Don Meissner." I'm thinking, you're the only person that's ever said that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. And he says, "How would you like to be on my show?" And so I went on his show as a guest, and we did it a few times. And one day he said to me, "Do you think you could do a show on small water?" He says, "I'm going the way the big water is. I'm going to the ocean and to Lake Ontario. This is the new craze." He says, "But we need to cover little water. Could you do it?" And I said instantly, yes. Didn't have a clue. I didn't even know how to operate a camera, let alone talk in front of one.
Yeah.
But I said yes.
Yeah.
And that started, and I can only imagine what the first shows must have been like. But that's how I got the first opportunity. And from there, it
grew.
it took my life in a direction that I can't even tell you. The experiences, the people that I met. Oh my
you must have
gosh.
met, I mean, lots and lots of people. I mean, like you said, you've been all over the States, you've been to Alaska. I mean, have you done a lot of fishing in Canada?
Canada, I love Canada so much. Quebec Tourism was my sponsor for years. And so they would send me, and I remember saying to them one time, send me to the best places you can, because then we can make really interesting shows.
Yep.
So it'll benefit you and it'll benefit. And so they sent me to some wonderful places. And I had as many friends in my life that were Canadian as American. I love both countries. I love the experience. I love Quebec because I spent so much time there.
And you just got back from Quebec not a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah,
You did a show.
I did a promotion.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been doing during the winter is trying to promote this area as an area that people should discover, to come fishing, but then to try to realize that there's a way of life here that's a little bit different than most places.
Yeah.
It's almost like, to me, going back in time, or where time has stood still. There's less pressure, there's less tension.
Yep.
We aren't very rich here in this area, but we do have one of the richest natural
We
resources.
got the resources. We just got to put it together.
I think
That's what
so,
we do.
really.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I was just in Montreal recently doing a sports show there for the first time. It was pretty interesting. I was treated great by the people. And the one thing I discovered is that you would think Canada, because Canada is this vast wonderland of lake after lake after lake and fish. You would think, well, why would anybody want to come to the States to fish if they can do all this in Canada?
Yep.
But the thing is, most people can't, because most of the places you go fishing in Canada are there's Zex or whatever they call it, where you've got to have an outfitter take you there.
Yep.
They can come here and park their car along any stream or any of our waterways,
Yep.
and there's no difference than as long as they have a New York license.
No, you just got to go to Walmart.
That's true.
Stop at Walmart, get a license, and then you can fish wherever here.
So it's we have a lot to offer that a lot of times we don't realize we have to offer.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I've been doing
Yep.
over the winter.
Yep.
I miss it every time I can't go fishing, but
Oh.
when you're doing business, a lot of times you can't.
I
And
miss
Don-
fishing right now.
Don, you've been promoting the area for quite a few years. And one of the things people don't know is that we got the Bassmasters event, Bassmasters Elites, that comes to Waddington every other year. And the first year they came here was, I think it was 2012, right?
Yes.
2013.
2013 was the first year.
was the first year that we had the Bassmasters Elite, and it was the biggest event in bass history. And you were the one that actually orchestrated the whole event.
It broke the
And
record for the crowd.
Yeah, had set that event and brought that event here through your promotions, through your connections that you have throughout the country, and with all the guys that you have in the media and stuff like that. You were actually able to set up and have a bass event come to our little area, and it actually turned out to be one of the biggest events that Bass has ever had.
Yeah, I think it set records for, you know, I will take credit for bringing them here.
Yes.
What it took to actually pull it off took an awful lot of people that donated a lot of time and had to believe. But
Right.
here's the thing: when I first contacted Bass, they knew that this was good fishing, but there was no way in the world they thought that they could pull off an event here. Because remember, when you have any, as you guys know better than me, when you have any big event like this, part of the whole purpose is to make money. And for Bass to make money, they needed to bring in the crowds. They needed to have this whole thing go off like it has. And they said, you're just too small up there. There's no people that live up there. You can't pull this off. And I said to them, yes, we can.
And we did.
We can. And then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, now we've really got our work cut out for us. And people from all over this area came together. And one of the most poignant things in my entire life is I remember standing there on the stage at that 2013 event in Waddington and looking out over those crowds and thinking, oh my gosh, we did this. It was the most powerful feeling, I can't even tell you, because so many people, when we first started, didn't think we could do it. And not only did we do it, we set records for crowds that they'd never had. And second of all, those fishermen had tremendous weights that they brought in, and everybody did well.
I used to know, but I don't know right now, but I can't remember. I think 20-pound bags. I can't remember how many anglers, but I think it was more than half the field was bringing in over 20-pound bags.
Fantastic. It was fantastic. I remember guys getting up, some of the pro guys that got up on stage, and the things that they said, and they were affected. Mm-hmm. They were affected by a number of things. The fishing was fantastic, and they said that. But they said the beauty and the lifestyle here was something that really shocked them. They weren't prepared for how beautiful it was and how laid back it was. And the other thing that they said is the people here welcomed them and made them feel, which I don't think they'd had any place else quite the same. So we can be proud of that.
Well, I had a booth set up at the time for that, for pink fishing. But anyways, I mean, I was talking to someone when they come over to the booth. We took photos and stuff, and a lot of them stayed after the event for another week just to stay to fish.
And then they brought their family back on vacation because it was so
that's
different.
how much they liked it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And some of the guys that practiced, before their practice cutoff, stayed extra days too.
Yeah.
Because they liked it so much, and that's something. That's when they like to stay for that. That's really nice.
And the funny thing is, you and Will and so many of the other people you probably have on here that live in this area, a lot of times before this whole thing happened, probably took it for granted. We don't, I think all of us don't realize just how great this area is and can be for fishing.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things that I've found in what I believe very strongly, maybe that's why I found it, is not only do we have the great fishing and the great bass fishing of the St. Lawrence River, but we have these tributaries that run into the St. Lawrence in this area that have come all the way through the Adirondack Mountains.
Yep.
And they serve as massive spawning grounds for every species that lives in that St. Lawrence. And so people have the opportunity not only to fish the St. Lawrence, but if they want to get in a kayak or canoe, they can get in these tributaries and have a fabulous time catching just about anything.
I mean, you can go. You can start right up there, Oswegatchie River.
Yes.
You can work your way down. You got the Racket River. You got the St. Regis River. All
these rivers that we have here, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't know, is that there's towns up in the Adirondacks, like you're saying, Saranac, St. Regis Falls and stuff like that, where you can go and just have the best fishing in a canoe, kayak on your own, doing stuff like that. And each one of these towns has its own unique setup there for you to go into that town. There's places to stay, Saranac, Lake Placid. Each one of these areas has unique, and the draw. I mean, if you want to trout fish, you want to bass fish, you want to pike fish. Every one of these areas you could go in there, into small tributaries and fish and catch all these fish and enjoy yourself. And the accommodations, you'll find places where you can stay. There's nice hotels, the bed and breakfasts, places like that, all over the place where you can stay and just enjoy yourself. your family. I mean, they're shopping here, shopping the Canadian side, an hour away, they're shopping, there's tourism all over the place.
I mean, like you take the Grass River or you take the Deer River. Excellent muskie fishing.
Well,
Deer River, I think, is the best muskie fishing.
I'm laughing because
Because you know I'm right.
Well, it's that's not
No?
it. You know, let me tell you a little story about that. The reason, I said I came from Allegheny County. The reason I ended up here was my dad and mom moved up here when I went to college in Ohio. And my dad got a job in North Lawrence, a little town near here, in seal test. And I came back here, and I'm like, went in the Deer River. And I'm like, holy cow, I've never experienced anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
The whole time I was in the Navy, all I could think about was getting out, 4 years later, getting out and coming back here to live so I could fish in the Deer River. That's how much that river started to mean to me. Never imagined having a small stream that you could wade down and had a chance of catching a 30-pound muskie, an 8 or 9-pound walleye, numerous smallmouth bass, and heaven knows what else was in there,
Yeah.
and not see another person.
Yeah.
And this appealed to me so much. So yeah, we've got these. When I'm asked what show or what area, oh my goodness, you talked about the Oswegatchie River.
Yeah.
We have all this here. I could spend another lifetime fishing this area that Will's talking about, from Saranac Lake and Lake Placid and up over to Lake Champlain, and then coming all the way back with all these water systems. You could fish every day of your life and not fish all these places.
Yeah.
That's how much opportunity is here.
There's a lot.
There really is. It's astounding. Will and I had a friend, Stephen Flint, who was a river keeper for the Nature Conservancy, and he used to fish some of these waters in the Adirondacks. He didn't even come from here, and he discovered them in working for the Nature Conservancy, and the fishing that he uncovered and would tell us was just. It was beyond, and now Stephen has gone beyond, and so we can't talk to him. We can't find some of these places that he went, but there's so many there for people to discover.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Got anything else, Will?
Yeah, we got another question.
Actually, I'm going to put up two. We'll take phone calls at the same time.
Yeah, if you want to call in, you can put up the number.
So if you guys want to call in, call that number right now, and I'm sure Don will answer any questions that you guys have.
I'll try to.
You try to.
We have one question from Slick Harris, and Slick wanted to know, Don, on the average, how many days did it usually take to make a show?
Oh my gosh. Our goal always was in the beginning from the street. Let me back up, not to stammer here, but when we started with Streamside, the cameras that you see today, these little wonderful cameras, are nothing what we would have to take.
Yeah.
We had 3/4 deck systems with an external deck. So the deck and the battery pack would weigh 90 pounds. And then the batteries would usually last, if we were lucky, 15 or 20 minutes. So there's no way that you could capture a live strike. You would have to wait till a fish hit, and I'd say, whatever the camera guy's name, I got one. Then I'd have to hold the rod like this so I wouldn't tire the fish out,
Yeah.
and wait for the camera to come up on whatever. So, with that said, so many times the cameras wouldn't work or whatever. How many days did it take to do a show? Our goal was always get up at dawn, be out there on the water when it got light, and I would push people to stay until dark. And I remember one time going 10 days in a row and not getting a show. What I always tried to do was show a day's fishing, but I gotta say it usually took, if we were lucky, we got a show in a day. If we weren't, it would take another day, and sometimes another,
Yeah.
and another, and another.
Yeah.
And so,
But with all the cameras now, I mean,
oh my goodness! Now,
I mean, you could get one camera, one battery, or maybe two batteries on.
oh,
like
if I'd ever known,
they could shoot the whole day.
yeah,
No
now,
problem.
now it
With
would
the
be
camera
different.
on the whole time.
And the neat thing's what you can get now that we couldn't get back then.
Yeah.
Is the spontaneity.
Yeah.
And then if you've got a couple of cameras and you've got something like what my buddy Dave's got in his boat, where that thing's running all the time, he's got it geared in front of the boat, you can get the fish jumping
Yeah.
and some of the exciting things.
Yeah.
So to answer, what was his name that asked the question?
Slick.
Slick Harris.
So to answer Slick Harris, it took more time than I could ever say, but I always tried to make the show not just the fishing, but the story of the people that were with me. I wanted people to imagine themselves in the boat with where I was. So I could not even be there. They're in the boat fishing that day. It wasn't about me. It was about the fishing and the people that we meet along the way.
Yeah.
And everybody has a story. And some of my guests really had their stories.
Well, there was that one time we tried pulling off the triple whammy. He was on a deadline for shows. We had to shoot 3 shows in one day. Remember that?
Which is like once in 30 years going to happen.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
the best bet you have is with Will. I
Yeah.
can
So
say
he
that
calls me and
truthfully.
he's like, well, he goes, we got this deadline, we got to meet, I need these shows done. What can we do? How can we do it? I said, okay, here's the plan. Bring 2 more changes of clothes with you. Bring your 3 guests. And we pulled it off. We actually went out and we fished 2 hours with the first guest.
Yeah.
We got so many fish in the first 2 hours. Done, we stopped, shut off the cameras, everything. Switched over clothes, put on something, shot another show with the other guest, and then we did it again the 3rd time in order to get in the 20, what was it, 25 years? That was it was a real push to get those 3 shows done.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool. We completed it
Well,
in one day.
again, this is a fantastic fishery that Will has opened up to give me the opportunity to be part of. But I got to tell Slick, I remember just this year doing a fishing behind the lines show, and we were getting late in the season this year, and we went to the Bay of Quinte, which everybody knows is a phenomenal fishery on the Canadian side. And we went 3 days in a row. We left here 3 days. It was cold. It was this fall. And not only did we not get a fish in 3 days, we didn't get a strike in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And we had planer boards out. I was fishing with top people using the best walleye lures, every single rod out we could have for the number of people. Not one strike in one of the greatest watersheds. So either I am really terrible or it's just one of those things about fishing.
Yeah.
Because
That place is really good for largemouth, too.
is it? Well, we didn't try it.
yeah.
We were out there on a walleye quest.
Yeah. Fantastic place for largemouth. Fantastic place. So, guys, if you want to call in, don't forget the number's up there. What else you got, Will?
Okay.
I'm staring over at Will, watching his face, watching everything he does.
I'm looking through, guys. I'm looking through. Hold on.
So, you got any more shows coming up? I mean, not TV shows, but sportsman shows. Where can you be? Where are you going to be? Where people might come
I'm
and see
going to
you?
be in Ottawa on the 1st and 2nd of April. It's actually not even a fishing show. It's a destination like vacation show, but it's a great show. There's booths from people all over the world, Africa, Indonesia, islands in the Caribbean, just different places.
Yep.
And a lot of people are in their native costume. It's a great thing. I'm going to be the only fishing show in town for this thing.
Yeah.
But I want Canadians to realize that we do have something to offer, and we really want to bring Canadians over here because really we're neighbors, and we're the best neighbors in the world, I think.
Sure,
I think we have a unique relationship unlike any place in the world. So I'll be there. Then that's it for this year.
Okay.
And then I start doing the 4th year of fishing behind the lines, and what we're really wanting to do is to put more bass events, which you guys are not only a big part of, but can help tremendously in what we do, to use this area around Massena and Waddington and so forth, is the center of people discovering the great bass fishing. So we want to have more major tournaments here in this area.
Yeah. Are you doing the one on Oneida with Fishing with the Soldiers again?
If I have a chance, I sure will, because
I know
it's
you're
wonderful.
busy, so.
Well, that's a wonderful day.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, those soldiers remember that forever.
Yeah.
So, well, you finding anything else?
One of the guys is commenting about the Big Bash Challenge.
Yes.
He's actually one of the guys, Lynn and the
JM.
JM. They met you at the Montreal show,
Yes.
and they were just wondering what's the update on the Big Bash Challenge for 2017 that Messina''s holding.
And I feel really, really terrible to say this, but we're still, because we've had some people that are part of this whole planning thing that have had to go in the hospital and so forth, but we will have an update next week to lock down the thing. And Lynn came and helped us in Montreal, and it's something that we will need her help.
So Lynn's watching.
Yeah, Lynn and Jam are out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't given them the answer that they want to hear because I've giving them the same answer that they heard in Montreal.
Yeah.
But this is really important for Meissner.
Yeah.
So we want to make this, and we want to use Lynn's suggestions to make this a better event than we might have been able to do without her suggestions. So I do need her help, and I hope that she continues to support us in this.
Oh, she will. Lynn's a really good. Have you fished with her before?
No.
Good for you. You think? Oh my God!
She's gonna slap you. She's gonna slap you.
She knows I say it every show. I talk on the boat.
What do you? Okay, his question is, what
But
do
she
you
can
think?
fish.
What do you think is the predominant species of fish that everyone comes here to fish for? Bass, pike, muskie, walleyes.
That's a great question because if I just went to one city in the Northeast, I might come away with one answer. For example, when we went to Springfield last year, the biggest thing people were interested in coming here to fish for was walleyes. Walleyes was the big draw. When I went to Boxborough this year, which is a town near Boston, and it was more of a bass show, without a question, it was the tremendous smallmouth fishing. Not largemouth fishing, even though we have great largemouth fishing.
Yeah.
It was the smallmouth fishing. When I went to Philadelphia and Columbus, Ohio, I got to tell you, I think the biggest draw that people wanted to come here for is to fish muskies in the tributaries. Like they see on the videos we do. They may not be as big as what they can catch in the St. Lawrence, but it's something that anybody can come and use their bass tackle and catch those fish.
Well, a lot of these people don't own a boat either.
A lot of them don't own a boat.
And these tributaries, you can wade.
You can wade, or you can. There's even a canoe and kayak rentals here in Meissner now, where they can get on these waters. So everyone, and I'm not even touching on what carp could bring here, but I'm not a very good specialist in that, so I can't give people the information the same as somebody that's really good at carp fishing can. But it's funny that each area seemed to want something different.
Right, but the carp fishing has to be huge here. They hold the world carp fishing
I know.
tournament here every year, so.
Well, each year I was involved with the junior carp tournament,
Right.
and got to see just how much. So many of these kids, and this is what amazed me. These kids fish other things but just carp.
Yep.
But yet when I would interview them, these kids, a lot of them would say their favorite fish to catch was carp. Not bass, not muskies, but carp.
Yeah.
And there's something about that carp fishing. Maybe it was all the sophisticated equipment. Maybe it's putting that rod down and hearing it go click, 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 click when a fish is going to hit. Yeah. Maybe it was that audio sound. I don't know, but they love carp fishing.
Or the size of them.
Well, there you go.
Some of them are 30 pounds.
We have a scrolling banner at the sports shows. It has pictures of the different fish here. Yeah. And one of the pictures on there was a kid. The kid that came from up where you live, Will. Yeah. I can't think of his name. He was 11 then. Now he's probably about 7 feet tall, and because it's been a few years. But he had never hardly fished them, and he's holding a 40-pound carp. Right. And you wouldn't believe the people that would look at that scrolling banner and say, "What in the world is that giant fish?"
Yeah.
And it was him holding. He was a big kid too, so it wasn't like he was little and making that fish look big. But carp could be a big draw here. They really could. But we've got so much else. Yeah. So to answer Will's question, I think it depends on the area and what the people have in the area that we're going to see. If they live on Lake Erie, then they're not going to be as interested in catching walleyes or smallmouths as they would to come up here and fish the tributaries. Yeah. If they live down in Columbus, Ohio, where most of the water is dirty, then they're going to want to come up here and fish for some of the things that we have. I got to tell you, the one thing that amazes me is no matter where I went in the East, no matter whether it was way down in Columbus, Ohio, or over in Philadelphia or in Suffern, New York City, Black Lake. Everybody knew Black Lake. They might not know. They might not even not know the St. Lawrence River. They might not even not know. That's great English. But anyway, they knew Black Lake. Black Lake was where people from all
Black
over.
Lake is only 20 minutes from the St. Lawrence River.
I know it, and that's what I tell them. While you're here, while you come to Black Lake, come on over and spend a day doing something different.
It actually goes into the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah, but it's
That's-
amazing what Black Lake has become. It's become a legend.
Yeah,
But
And
it didn't
they
happen
hold-
overnight.
They hold a lot of tournaments on Black
They do.
Lake. Not
They
not
do.
big bass tournaments, but they have tournaments.
The
on
thing
there.
that makes Black Lake so special is it has every species of fish there. So people coming there on
Yep.
vacation, if they bass
and the
fanatics,
cottages
and they've
or
got
camps
cottages and
that
camps.
you can rent one for the whole week, 2
Exactly.
weeks. There's so many on
exactly.
that lake.
That's what makes it special.
And that's another thing too. I mean, if you're from out of state and you want to come up here to fish, you could go to Black Lake, rent one of their camps or cottages, fish Black Lake, and also come up to the St. Lawrence River because it's only 20 minutes away.
Exactly. That's right. That's what I try to tell them.
Yeah, and I mean there are so many camps on Black Lake that people rent out.
Well,
It's
what do they call
amazing.
the area? What's it called? The whole area, all the lakes.
Oh, the Indian River chain of lakes.
That's what it's called. The Indian
Yeah,
River chain of
and
lakes.
that's another gem that hardly anybody knows of. Seriously, of all the potential marketable waters that we have, they are very unique because they do offer all these species. The unique thing about the Indian River chain is they were glacially formed, so most of them have deep as well as shallow water, so they can hold trout and salmon populations as well as warm water populations, and yet you can have a little boat and have access to them and fish all of them. So there's a dozen of them or something. There's a lot of them all in one area, and Black Lake happens to be the biggest by far of all those lakes.
Yeah.
But nobody knows about the others, and they're all great.
Hey, Brad was asking what your
Brad
thoughts
who?
were. Brad Paradise
Paradise.
was asking what's your thoughts on the new plan for keeping the water levels high up on the St. Lawrence River. How do you think that's going to impact the fishing? Do you think it'd be positive, negative?
Well, I'm not a biologist, and I wish that I was because there's so many questions people ask me that I want to be as knowledgeable for. I don't want to just throw out whatever. I feel that the fluctuation of the water levels is one of the biggest thing to hurt our fishing over the years that we've had of anything. Number one, it's affected the northern pike populations in the river more than any other, I can say more than any other species, because with those fluctuations, the northern pike are not able to get back to the spawning grounds as they once did, and their numbers are depleting tremendously. I also think that it allows, it obviously allows easier access. It's easier on the but that isn't what
Yeah.
Brad is asking. He's asking about the fish and the well-being of the fish populations in the river. And I think the other thing is that when you have stable situations, no matter what it is, if you have a condition that remains stable, it's a lot easier on any species to maintain and to propagate than it is when things are constantly fluctuating. They're constantly in a series of disarray and wondering, okay, what do we do now? You know, the current situation increases because the water level comes up. I've been with Will before, where all of a sudden the current situation was so incredible that we could hardly fish for smallmouth, if you remember. We couldn't control our baits because that water was so torrential. And that is an indication of how bass fishing in particular can be better if it's more stable. People can learn how to fish it better. So I know Brad would probably have additions to this because Brad is a teacher, and I know he has a great knowledge of the water system.
Brad's supposed to be coming back on the show, so we'll see if he's.
We'll see what his take is.
Yeah, we'll ask him.
We'll get his take. Another question is, what kind of guy is Don Meissner? Is he a smallmouth guy, largemouth guy, pike, muskie, carp? What kind of fisherman? What's your favorite?
You know, that's something that I know, Will, you could answer. You could probably tell them more about me than most people would know because you know what I like. But will you first of all, you say what you think.
I think next to muskie, and I've heard him say it so many times, but I know he likes fishing largemouth bass. We talked about it, and that was two of the favorite fish.
Well, I got to tell you, unlike most of you, most people tend to polarize and sort of obsess on one type of fishing. And if they do that, then they can become better and better at that one type because each species has different characteristics. I'm not like that. I like it all. I enjoy it all tremendously. I always have. I even like fishing trout in a stream with bait. That's how I grew up, fishing worms, dangling angle worms down and so forth. I love northern pike. Northern pike fascinate me, and yet for most bass fishermen, they hate northern pike. They're a nuisance. They keep them from winning a tournament. They bite off their favorite lures. But to me, it's another species that I totally enjoy. I don't really enjoy fishing out on big water where you're using downriggers and all that stuff. Some people love that. To me, that takes away from the hands-on feel that I love about fishing. But that's to elaborate on what Will said, because again, doing these sports shows, 9 out of 10 people I talk to, it's smallmouth. Smallmouth is what they love. When it comes to bass, smallmouth fight harder. They do all these things better. But there's something about largemouth fishing that I love. I love it. Maybe it's the type of water you go in. Maybe it's waiting for that little tick that comes.
I find they're more elusive.
They don't fight
hide.
nearly as much. They hide. They're back there in waters that I enjoy fishing. And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but if I had my choice of going smallmouth fishing or largemouth fishing, it would be largemouth every time. And I know I'll lose a lot of fans by saying that, but that's what I feel. Now, you take a little stream like the Grass River, some of these little tributaries, and if I'm wading in it, fishing for smallmouth, I love it. Even though the smallmouth are going to be so much smaller than the monsters we can catch on the St. Lawrence.
Yep.
And the big thing also is that our smallmouth bass in our rivers fight harder than most smallmouth bass. I don't care. People can say that. They think I'm crazy. For too many people come up here that have fished all over the country, and our top pros that come here, and they say,
elites say the same thing.
They say these bass are unbelievable how they
current.
fight. Yes. But give me a largemouth back in a little bay, way back in with the cattails and that, and I love it. Yeah. I love it. So, but I love it all. I love landlocked salmon. Oh my gosh!
What's your biggest
largie? Huh?
How big's your biggest largie so far?
I think if I remember right, I was fishing with Mark McEwen, who is now one of the head people of Garmin. He used to be the international vice president of Lowrance. But we were doing a show out on Stony Island, in the pond in Stony. And I was using a jigging pig. This is going back many, many years. It was a brown jig with a brown pig. And I remember catching an 8+ pound largemouth out of there. And that is by far the biggest largemouth I've ever caught. Probably the biggest smallmouth for sure has been caught with Will. And I'm going to say 6 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah,
but in that range.
Yeah.
In that range.
Yeah. We've caught so many.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have. But so that's the biggest largemouth I ever caught. I've caught huge northern pike. I've caught northern pike 30 pounds and 30 pounds plus in Quebec waters. Yep. Way, way, way up. I've caught huge lake trout out in Lake Athabasca. But it's kind of unfair to even talk about that because that's a place most people could never go. It's like the fish have never seen hardly any. It's not that they bite more because they haven't seen, because sometimes they can be elusive. But there's some monsters there.
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of doesn't, I guess it doesn't, it's unfair to sort of, but hey, I've caught some big fish, and most of the time I don't. Most of the time I catch small ones.
I watched one of your shows where you guys were fishing for walleyes.
Yes.
And you were foul hooking them on the belly every time.
Well, that wasn't intentional.
No.
If I was
there was like
good,
10 or 15 of them right in a row.
Foul hooked with a little tiny jig hook.
Yeah.
Must be.
I was laughing.
What it must be is those fish were so much faster than me that by the time I reacted to their bite, they were already halfway gone, and I was getting them in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an awful.
Probably just
that's an awful thing to remember. Remember something a little better than that. Jeez. Oh.
Okay, so what is it? Okay, his question is, what is it about fishing? The actual fishing. Some guys are like catching fish. What is it about fishing? Is it?
No, I know exactly where you're going.
Is it setting the hook?
I've asked.
Or is it the bite, the wait? The waiting for the fish bite that keeps you coming back to fishing?
Boy, that's a great question. I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't
anticipation.
It isn't the catching the fish. It isn't the having the fish in the boat or whatever. I think it's the strike. It's got to be. When I rate the experience, what is it about the experience?
I agree with you.
That's
I think it's the strike
the
too.
crescendo. That is the apex or whatever the word would be of the whole experience to me. And unlike guys like you guys that fish tournaments and that it's about getting that fish in as quick as you can so you can get another one so you can get the big fish. To me, I really enjoy the battle, and I enjoy seeing the fish jump, which is the worst thing you can do because that gives it the chance to throw the hook.
Yep.
So I enjoy all those aspects, but I think
But that's the bass's life. You know what I mean? They're born to jump, especially
Yes.
smallmouth.
Yes.
So you want to enjoy that.
Yeah,
But like you said, with the tournament guys, we're trying to get them in as fast as
yes,
possible.
and you got to hold the
Yeah.
rod down instead of up, and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. You know, you got to remember when you ask me these questions, you got to remember why I'm here, why fishing is characterized my life, and it goes way back to when I was a little kid, and back in those days, it wasn't catch and release, it was catch and keep and eat, and you know we kept everything, and the thrill for me as a kid would be bringing those fish home and
Show 'em off. Yeah.
showing my dad
Yeah.
what I had caught made me feel like I was such a big part of the family and being able to feed the family.
Yeah.
But I guess
But the good thing is,
It-
to show
it's-
them off now, you can use this.
that's true. That's true. But it is
So
different.
yeah.
It is different. Fishing to me is it's such a huge part of my life. It's the experience of being there, of being part. I'm going to start sounding like I'm just spewing off stuff, but really it's a part of being there in nature. And so many kids today don't have the opportunity to experience
Yeah.
that. They don't know what it's like to be out there and be part of nature, as opposed to being on their phone or playing video games or
Yeah.
whatever. It's not just a backdrop. It's breathing and being there in that, and
Yeah.
that's what it is
Yeah.
for me. It's
I do that.
relaxation.
I
It's,
do that. Kids for fishing with PJ.
yes,
in
yeah,
Hoganburg
PJ
every
does a
year.
tremendous
And,
job with kids.
Like you were saying with the kids, it's
Oh,
it's nice to see them get out there for the day and get away from the computers and the games and the cell phones and stuff. I enjoy that. That's really fun.
it's not even those kids go out there. It's not even whether they become an avid fisherman. They might find something else in that day that strikes them. They might like looking at birds. They might want to
Yeah.
become a hunter or
Well,
whatever.
2 years ago when we did it, that one day that we did it, we had all the kids. We took them fishing, got it all done. Well, they get a fishing pole, and they get a little tackle box, and they get tackle and stuff in it. And PJ posted it on his Facebook page. The next day, this little boy was walking back down to the ramp towards the river with his fishing pole and his tackle, going back down the fish.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, because
That
he had
says-
so
that-
much fun
that
that
is
day
incredible.
before.
That is
He
incredible.
wants to go back. He wants to catch another one.
Stephen, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I can
It's-
just
it's an amazing
visualize
picture that he took,
Yeah,
too.
that says everything.
Yeah, that's how much that little boy liked it. He just wanted to go back the next day.
Wow.
So you're saying it's the
It's the strike.
It's the strike,
It's the
okay.
strike. It is. It's the strike, and that's why I love fly fishing, especially with wet flies. Not dry flies where you see them come up and jump. That's all great fun, but with wet flies, that boom, that jolt that happens. It's more instantaneous. It's more incredible.
Yep.
That's what I love. And if it was bait fishing or something, I love having it out there and something. I love that.
If you're
That's it. That's the excitement. Then you set the hook.
if you want to do some fly fishing with what, I don't know if you know Dr. Orlando in town here.
No, I don't.
He makes his own flies. He is a very big fly fisherman.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll have to introduce you to
See,
him one
I'm
day.
I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
When people watch me
He's a
fly cast,
chiropractor, so he'll help.
well,
you.
he could help me because when they watch me fly cast, my hands are going spastic and sidearm and so forth. But still, it's anybody can do it. Anybody can master that.
I've never tried fly fishing.
Oh, it's to me, it's. But I've had other people that are great friends of mine that they lose patience with it. So
Yeah.
they're different strokes for different folks. You know,
Yep.
nothing is perfect for anybody.
Yep. Yep.
And I know Will likes something that I don't like, and he loves it. And to me, it's like fishing out in the field. You're not even in the water. You're not. He goes in these areas that are so thick with brush, and what do? You flip
Flip
you
it.
pitch,
Flip, pitch.
flip and pitch. And my goodness, there's no battle, there's nothing. You just, you're hauling it in with a big broomstick. But he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it as much as I love some of the things, really.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's different.
it's effective because that's where nobody fishes unless they know those fish are in that thick stuff where you can hardly.
Yep.
And he knows how to do it. I don't. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why I don't like it because I'm no good at it. But, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things up here, and that's one thing I find over like the past 2 years I've been doing more and more on my guiding now. Is people are coming up for the fly fishing. It's something new. Well, I mean,
Yes.
they fly fish for trout up here. That was the main draw, but no one ever fly fished for pike. No one's ever heard about fly fishing for smallmouth, fly fishing for largemouth.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the thing that's really taken off is the fly fishing for muskie.
Yeah, tremendously.
And so-
You're right, and you know that's what a lot of people ask me about at these sports shows. And you bring that up, I'd forgotten, but that's a lot of people want to know: is it possible to fish flies for these? And of course, you can fish anything with a fly rod.
Mm-hmm.
You really can. And the other thing that people don't realize is when you're fishing these tributaries, you don't need to use as giant of baits to catch muskies as people think, as you might need out in the St. Lawrence
Yeah.
or someplace. Because the muskies are taking advantage of whatever food they can get in these tributaries, and they will hit smaller baits. It's not that they won't hit something big, but they'll also hit something small.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a streamer that's, let's say, 4 or 5 inches long, that's plenty big
Plenty,
enough
yeah.
to fish for muskies. So it's all the hardest thing for fly fishing for muskies is if you're using really big stuff. The only way you can get that lure out there in the water is you got to cast it. It's not your rod and line aren't doing it. You're doing it with your arm, and you got to have a heavy duty rod to do that. So that becomes really strenuous.
And that top water hit is amazing, isn't
The
it?
top water hit is unbelievable.
I love
you
it.
see the wake coming, and the excitement of the wake building as it's coming and coming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all great. It's all great. Really is.
Have anything else, Will?
Yeah, I'm looking through right now.
We're looking through.
Okay, what's your favorite fish to fish for, Stephen?
I can answer before we even start. It's going to be smallmouth. I'll bet you. I would bet anything it's going to be smallmouth bass.
No.
It isn't?
No.
Then I'm going to learn something.
I'm right with you.
Really?
Largies.
Really?
Yeah. He got me hooked on it. I love largemouth fishing.
People don't realize we've got a lot of largemouth here.
We do.
A lot.
We do.
And I think the numbers are increasing. But that's interesting. And
Yeah.
why do you love them?
I like to hunt. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
I like. Yeah, so you can go out in the middle of St. Lawrence or whatever. You can put your graph. You can look at your grass. Okay, there's your smallies, drop shot, whatever you got to do. Okay, you're getting them. The largemouth are in the weeds. They're in lily pads. They're in dirtier water. That's what excites me. I got to go find them. I can't use my electronics to find them.
That's a great point.
You know.
Really, that's a super point.
And it's just, I don't know. I just, you know, unless you're using a little bit of top water or something, you know. But, yeah, I like, what's the words I'm trying to find? I'm like a search and destroy guy.
Yeah.
I want to search for them.
You want to hunt for them.
Yeah, I'm a hunter. I mean, I want to look for them. So that's why I like the largies. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, sometimes you're in 4 or 5 feet of water, dirty water, close to the bank. I mean, it's hard to use. You can use electronics, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder, but especially if you're pitching and flipping. You know, you're flipping to the bank. So I like it. I really like largies.
I enjoy.
I used to fish a lot of muskie, but I got kind of bored of it. 'Cause it, you know, like they say, muskie's a fish of 1,000 casts, you know. But yeah,
Depends. That saying only depends on the areas where
That's right.
it takes 1,000 to catch them. Here, it doesn't take 1,000.
No, but that's the old saying, right?
Yeah, that is the
casts,
old saying.
1,000 casts gets a
Absolutely.
muskie, but I mean, there's places you can go down here to the power dam, and I mean, you know, I'm not saying you're gonna catch one all the time, but I mean,
your chances are really good. Yeah.
your chances are higher to catch them down there or Grass River.
would have to say for me, it's largies.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
And you know what's weird
I
about
think
it?
it's- I
I
think
mean,
it's
we
because
got giant smallmouth out here,
Yeah,
but we all like fishing largemouth.
Yeah.
right. For
You
me,
know?
it's the same thing. I like hunting after them.
Yep.
I like going in on the prowl and trying to find them. You know, you're trying to think where they at, and
Yep.
you know your techniques you're using. Your
Yep.
jig fishing.
Yeah, I
swim
mean, I
baiting,
like
or
casting a swim bait right along that edge, right there. And,
flipping into heavy cover
Yeah.
in the weeds, and
Yep.
you know, it's almost like a surprise. It's almost like Christmas morning when you open
Yep.
up that gift, when you flip into that, you know, those
Yep.
lily pads or that.
And another thing for myself too, I find I have an easier time of catching largemouth than I do smallmouth. I mean, middle of summer, I kind of have I have a harder time locating them. I don't
Locating
know why.
smallmouth.
Smallmouth,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, smallmouth can go to unbelievable depths here in the.
Yeah, I mean, middle of July, I mean, sometimes you're looking at 40, 50, 50
Yeah,
you know,
I
40,
know.
50 feet to drop shot it, and it just, you know, if I have to, yes, but I'd rather go for the largemouth.
That's an interesting thing that you brought up too. If you had to pick, each of you, your favorite way to catch a fish, if you had one way to catch it, what's your most enjoyable? Now, granted, that question's, that's just a question because you got to be able to adapt to different conditions. But if you had one way, what's the most enjoyable way? Yours is probably that horrible way that
I mean, I like the flipping and pitching, but to be honest, topwater's always been my favorite.
Mine is too. Topwater frog.
Topwater frog, whether it's a frogs or a spook,
Or a spook.
anything.
Yeah.
You know, growing up as a kid in the smallmouth waters where I guide in now, we grew up throwing topwater baits on everything, and just to see that explosion, it's the most exciting way to fish because you're actually seeing the fish coming up and taking your bait.
Yeah.
And I think even for small kids, like, I mean, if you want to get a kid hooked on fishing, you want to get your kids, bring them up for smallmouth or for largemouth or for pike, whatever fishing, but take them topwater fishing. And when those kids can see the fish actually come up and swirling on the baits and stuff, that's the most exciting fishing I think for anyone to see or experience.
No doubt about it. I agree with you. And speaking of kids, it's the same thing with using a bobber. Those kids see they
bobber
can
going
watch
up,
the bobber,
Yeah.
and see that bobber all of a sudden go down.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's that visual addition.
Oh, my dad used to take me bullhead fishing. I mean, almost every night we used to go bullhead fishing, using that bobber. And that bobber go up and down. My little Zepco 202.
Do they still make Zebco too?
Oh, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, it's the number one.
202. We used to have the 202 and the 404.
Yes. Yes.
202
I
or
remember.
404. 202 is the most sold fishing reel in the world is the Zepco 202.
Yeah.
That little combo that you always buy
Yeah.
came with I think it was a 5.5 or 6 foot fishing pole. I think it was 5.5 with a Zepco 202, and I think it had 12-pound test line came with the reel.
Yeah.
And that was the most successful fishing reel ever sold in the history.
Wow.
Was that?
It's not surprising.
Yeah.
And I think pretty much everyone out there in the country, everyone I knew growing up, that was their first reel.
Well, the face was closed on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't an open face.
Right.
So it was so much easier for the kids to cast.
But the funny part about it, and people don't realize, is that, with all the fancy stuff and all there's actually bass fishing elite guys that still use those reels because there's things you can do with those reels
That you
and those
can't do
fishing
with the
poles
other
that
ones.
you can't do with your expensive bait casting, spinning rods and things like that. They still use Zebco rods or Zebco reels for certain techniques.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, I was surprised when I seen it myself.
Yeah.
I actually seen a classic champ. I seen Woo Dave's classic champ was using it in a tournament up here in the Hudson, and I got to experience it fishing as a co-angler. Turned around and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Is that a Zebco in there?" And he turned around and he actually won the event. Won the tournament, the bass tournament we were in, on that Zebco.
What was he using with the 202?
He was throwing flukes, but he was skipping them like way up under docks, and just the way his technique, he was actually able to get a further skip instead of using a spinning rod or
Yeah,
something.
because one-handed. I mean, all you gotta do is push the button.
Yeah.
It
was just weird. I never seen anybody do that. But
and there's no backlash.
Someone at that level doing that type of fishing with that.
That's fascinating,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. but whatever works, you know.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm sure you cashed a pretty big check that day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Zepco or not,
So
we'll do a couple more questions and then.
what are you gonna be doing? Okay, over this year, what are you working on for future plans? What's happening? What's your next step?
For the show or for anything?
For anything, for promotion, you're promoting.
Okay, this is
Promoting the North Country, you're going to be doing your show.
this is my plan for this year. We're starting the 4th year of doing Fishing Behind the Lines, and wherever that leads, I do that more as a way that I can reach out and try to do something for all our veterans. I'll be promoting this area more and more. This year, my plans are to, as some people may know, we're increasing what the intake is, and but the Meissner intake, and by doing that, we're going to bring, I think, more opportunities for people to come here and not only have tournaments, but for you to use the area in other ways.
Yep.
One of my big dreams, and what I would really like to do, and we talked a little bit about it when you were talking about PJ, is to do more schools for kids in the outdoors. You know, for 3 years we did a school for kids with Cornell Extension.
I did that
And
1 year with you.
and it was yes, you did, and that's one of the most rewarding things in my entire life, to do this. And so my dream is not only to do this for this area, but to use this area as a backdrop to do a regional or a national school, to bring kids from all over the country here to experience the joy and the possibility in their life of what fishing can be, to teach them. And when we teach them about fishing, it's more about just teaching them about the outdoors. You know, in our classes, we let the kids think and come up with stories and questions, and it's amazing to see what this can do for kids. So that's one of my big dreams. And you never can do it alone. The teachers that we used in that fishing school for kids were people from this area that gave their time, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
None of them, except for Mike Seymour, was really a teacher. But these were people that loved fishing and shared it in such a way with these kids. And so that's something that I'd really like to do this year.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is make Meissner the sort of the outreach, Meissner the area where you can begin and experience all the incredible fishing around us.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't expect people to just sit there and fish on the bank in Meissner all day,
Yeah.
but to be able to experience the places Will's talking about
Yeah.
in the Adirondacks. And the other thing that I would really, one of my other dreams for this year, is to be able to utilize all the strengths that all three of our nations here have to share together, bringing the Canadians and the Americans closer together, and also the Mohawks and the people outside the reservation together, because we each have strengths and we each have parts of the tradition of this area that I think we become better in working together.
Mhm.
Proof of this right now.
Yeah.
Without Will's help, I could never ever have done so many of the shows that I did, and some of our best shows we ever did, thanks to Will.
Yeah.
But that's an example of what we can do
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that I plan to do this year.
Yeah.
Plus, and I shouldn't. Oh my goodness! Every week I'm on the Stevens Radio Group doing radio
I was
shows.
gonna bring that
Radio
up.
shows. That's something I never even thought of doing in my life. And what it does is it gives us the opportunity to talk about all the different things that are happening here, so the people in this area have a better idea of what they can do. They might not know, and so that's a big part.
What channel is that?
That's on.
Is it 90?
Don't put me there. Don't put me there. You've asked me these tech questions.
It's 90.
It's on
96.
Q Country,
Yeah.
on Yes, on the Meissner station, the Blend or the Mix,
The Max.
and on Froggy out of Watertown. And so it covers, and of course, all of these stations reach in on the Canadian side.
Yeah.
All there is a river in between us.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to increase my talking about Canadian experiences more, because so many Canadian people are listening to this. But the North Country Fishing Report, and I do 6 of them every week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of what I do too. It's just doing exactly what we're doing right here. just sharing thoughts and ideas and things about our area.
Good. That's about it. That's about it.
That's it.
All right.
That's encapsulated.
So, anyways,
a life.
We're gonna call the show quits. We've been over an hour and a half. So, you asked how long we're gonna be. We said half hour. I guess we lied.
Well,
see, what I tell you, you get talking and you lose track of time. So
that's right.
But
Steven.
that's okay. Hopefully, everybody was watching the whole show. So, if you guys get a chance, the first show for fishing or
I think
Behind the Lines is March 29th.
Yes.
At 7:30 on PBS.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the whole network.
Yeah, it's on the whole
PBS
network.
And I think the first show is the show that all of us did.
Yeah, it's with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Is it?
Yep.
No. Are you sure?
Yep. I already checked it out.
Okay.
Because I already told about 200 people to watch it.
Okay.
So, that's coming on. I'm not sure when the next... Are they once a month?
No,
or every week?
Every week.
Every week.
Maybe a couple times a week for all I know. It might replay again on Saturdays. It'll be on... oh, Lynn, forgive me if you're listening for me being so brain dead here.
That's okay.
I think it's on Tuesday night, and but
they can get on PBS.
They can get on PBS
website. They can check it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If not, contact me and I'll help you guys find it.
We're actually having a public screening on the 30th at the TV station. Anybody's welcome to come down and meet all of us that are there, and that'd be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've never been to the PBS station in Watertown. It's pretty laid back and pretty nice.
Yeah. Good.
It'd be a good place to go to if you're not doing anything and then you guys are in the area. It'd be a great event to go to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're gonna meet a lot of people there, a lot of fishermen, hunters, people in towns and stuff like that. You're gonna meet, you guys are gonna learn more. You're gonna see a lot of things, and you guys are gonna meet some great people.
Yep. So, okay. So, wish you more success and.
Well, I
need all the success.
Don's gonna be coming back on throughout the year. We'll have Don here.
Yeah.
So you guys
and hopefully we'll have you back in here too.
This has been fun, guys.
Actually, when these two fellows come.
Yeah. Are they going to come in and do this?
Yeah.
So
you're going to be with them.
Oh my goodness!
So the three chairs will be here, and I'm going to be sitting back there with Will.
All right.
These guys are going to go to town.
That'll be fun.
That'll be really fun.
Oh my gosh! You know what these guys are like. There's no telling.
And I said we should get them after we fish.
Yes.
Then they can tell their stories.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and they can tell about their experience and stuff. So, and if we do it again, there's some things I'm going to plan on going live with the cell phone too. So
that'll be great.
Yeah, we're gonna go live. We're gonna go live right on the river, right when we're out there.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and help you out as much as possible. So anyways, people, go check out Don, watch his show, and if you're in Ottawa, April 1st and 2nd,
great.
Go see him at the show.
Yeah.
Meet him. Go shake his hand. Best guy I ever met in my life. Sorry, Will. But no, Don's a really nice guy.
Steven.
And
you son of a bitch, Steven.
Steven, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, anyways, guys, we'll see you next week. I've got some of the ladies from the LBAA that are going to be live Skype with us, and they're going to be talking about the ladies bass. Is that LBAA or?
Yeah, ladies bass fishing league.
Yeah, so they're going to be on, and they're going to be talking about their league, and
that's going to be a great show because if your wife, your girlfriend, sister, whoever, friends of yours,
it's all women anglers. So
it's for women. It's for women anglers, and I mean it's starting to explode more and more. I mean, so this show you're going to be able to talk to these ladies, get information on it.
And these ladies are the directors of the tournaments. So.
Right. So not only do they have a lot a lot of knowledge at running the businesses and doing like that, but these ladies can fish.
Yeah,
these ladies can kick some butt on the water.
Yeah. So
I mean, not mine personally, but I know.
But if any of the ladies out there that want to try to get involved in that, their tournaments can also get hold of these ladies and
tune in, watch the show, all the information.
Come in and and we're definitely going to have questions and phone calls again. So.
Yeah, everything will be there.
Yeah. So. All right. So, anyways, Don, thanks for stopping in,
Thank you, Steve.
and
Thanks
hopefully you'll
for all
come
the
back
help.
again. And Will, thank you for doing what you do back there.
You got it, buddy.
So, guys, until next Saturday, tight lines. Thank you.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday, 7 p.m.
Oh, what is it? That late?
7 p.m. Not 8 p.m. anymore. 7
My
p.m.
God, man.
8 o'clock was too late. So 7.
All right.
7.
7 p.m.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
We'll see you guys.